Imagine working a good job, making $100,000 a year, double the American average, and still not being able to afford a basic apartment in your city. Now, imagine that is not because of a natural disaster or a war or a lack of land. It is because your own government made it illegal to build homes. This is the reality for hundreds of thousands of people in San Francisco right now. Teachers, nurses, police officers, even tech workers are all priced out of the city they work in. And if you think this is just a local problem, think again. This same playbook is being copied in cities across America, and it might be coming to your neighborhood next. Here is how bad it has gotten. In the first half of 2024, San Francisco permitted only 16 new housing units. Not 16 buildings, 16 units in a city of nearly 900,000 people. That is one new home for every 56,000 residents. To put that in perspective, most American cities of similar size approve thousands of units in the same time frame. San Francisco is the opposite of what a growing city should be. It is a place where building homes has become virtually impossible. But this is only one of the aspects that make San Francisco so restrictive. 54% of existing homes could not legally be built today under current zoning laws. The median home price sits at $1.5 million, requiring an annual income of $500,000 or more to afford comfortably. The city needs to build 82,000 units by 2031 to meet state requirements, but is only 4.4% toward that goal. And it is ranked as the #1 most restrictive city for housing construction in America, ahead of even New York City. Overall, San Francisco is one of the most exclusionary and restrictive housing markets in the entire United States. A place where the American dream of home ownership has become a distant fantasy for average workers. So how exactly did San Francisco end up like this? And what choices turned one of America's most dynamic cities into a place where building homes is essentially illegal? To answer that, we have to go back to September 18th, 1978. San Francisco had been one of the fastest growing cities in America for decades, with its population booming after World War II and the tech economy starting to take shape in the 1970s. The city was vibrant, diverse, and constantly evolving. But while the economy was booming, the city was also dealing with many problems that concerned existing residents. Downtown high-rises were blocking views of the bay and the Golden Gate Bridge. Traffic and parking concerns were growing in residential neighborhoods. There were fears about overdevelopment changing the character of beloved neighborhoods. Anxiety about newcomers moving to the city and transforming its culture was widespread. And homeowners worried about shadows being cast on their backyards by new apartment buildings. During this period, the anti-growth movement had started to become increasingly powerful in San Francisco politics. Environmental groups, neighborhood associations, and preservation advocates formed a coalition that would reshape the city forever. One of the main pioneers of this movement was the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, led by figures like Dianne Feinstein. In September 1978, the board voted to massively downzone the entire city. This was one of the first citywide downzonings in America, and it proposed something radical for the time. The plan reduced building heights across most residential neighborhoods to just 40 feet, only 3 or 4 stories at most. In one vote, it eliminated 180,000 legally buildable units from the city's potential housing stock. It concentrated all new development into a handful of poor minority neighborhoods like South of Market and the Mission District. And perhaps most ironically, it made it illegal to build apartments in areas that already had them. The overall goal, as stated explicitly in the planning documents, was to maintain the existing character and scale of San Francisco, which in turn would discourage new residents from moving to the city. The city's leaders literally wrote that they wanted to stem the outmigration of current residents without attracting large numbers of new residents. Unlike most ambitious city plans, nearly every part of this one was realized. These restrictions still define San Francisco today, more than 45 years later. The most noticeable direct result is the citywide housing shortage that now defines San Francisco. Today, the city produces around 1,200 new homes per year, when it needs to average over 10,000 annually just to keep up with demand and meet state-mandated goals. This is something that almost no other major American city struggles with at this scale. Even cities facing their own housing challenges, like Los Angeles or Seattle, manage to build several times more housing than San Francisco. Aside from the construction freeze, San Francisco has the highest percentage of illegal neighborhoods in America, where 54% of existing homes violate current zoning and could not be rebuilt today if they burned down or were demolished. Victorian apartments, charming courtyard buildings, and mixed-use neighborhoods built before 1978 are now considered non-conforming uses. San Francisco's discretionary review process is one of the most crucial aspects of its broken system. Urban planners say it is one of the most complex and time-consuming approval processes in the entire country. When San Francisco downzoned the city in 1978, planners also gave residents an unprecedented power to challenge any project, even ones that followed all the rules perfectly. The system works like this. Even if a developer meets every single zoning requirement, follows every building code, and checks every box, any neighbor within 150 feet can file for discretionary review. This can trigger months or years of delays, public hearings, design modifications, and additional studies. So, if you are trying to build a small 4-unit apartment building that meets all codes, you still need approval from the Planning Commission, neighborhood groups, and potentially the Board of Supervisors. That approval process can take from 3 to 8 years and can cost millions of dollars in fees, consultants, and legal expenses. But San Francisco's restrictions do not stop with zoning and discretionary review. Just as important is how the city built its environmental review process to layer on top of everything else. Today, the California Environmental Quality Act, known as CEQA, allows anyone to sue to block projects based on claimed environmental concerns, including impacts like traffic congestion, shadows on parks, changes to neighborhood character, and even wind patterns. One of the most distinctive features is that CEQA can be weaponized to stop housing development, even affordable housing for low-income families, because opponents claim it will cause gentrification or change the neighborhood's aesthetic appeal. While other cities streamlined their approval processes to make housing easier to build, San Francisco kept these multiple layers of review largely because wealthy homeowners wanted to preserve their property values and ocean views. In effect, this turned housing scarcity into a financial asset for those who already own property. The geographic inequality is another thing that makes San Francisco so dysfunctional and unfair. Have a look at any zoning map showing where housing is actually allowed to be built. As visible from the data, neighborhoods like South of Market and the Mission are some of the most heavily zoned for high-density development, with towers allowed up to 400 feet tall. But the density dramatically decreases as you move west and north into wealthy areas like the Sunset, Richmond, Seacliff, and Pacific Heights, where 40-foot height limits still dominate the landscape. This creates a kind of segregated system that concentrates all development pressure on historically low-income, minority neighborhoods, protects wealthy single-family areas from any change, and makes it impossible to build missing middle housing, the duplexes, fourplexes, and small apartment buildings that form the backbone of affordable neighborhoods in cities around the world. This is exactly the type of gradual density that in many successful cities is referred to as the backbone of affordability and livability, simply because San Francisco made it illegal in 1978. In practice, this imbalance means you get the worst of both worlds, expensive housing everywhere regardless of type, but also massive glass towers that do not match neighborhood scale instead of moderate 4 to 8 story buildings spread naturally across the entire city. This broken system also plays a direct role in keeping San Francisco's housing costs at astronomical levels that exclude working families. As of 2024, the median single-family home price sits at around $1.5 million, which is 223% higher than the national average. For context, that is more expensive than nearly every other city in America, except a few ultra-wealthy enclaves. Of course, there are many contributing reasons for these high prices, like the concentration of tech wealth, the geographic constraint of being on a peninsula, and the undeniable desirability of living in San Francisco. But San Francisco also has an artificially restricted housing supply created by its own government policies, which means that even when demand softens during economic downturns, prices stay stubbornly high because there is simply nowhere else to build new homes. This supply shortage makes San Francisco extremely vulnerable to boom and bust cycles in ways that other cities are not. Prices skyrocket when the economy is good and tech companies are hiring, but the city cannot build fast enough to stabilize the market, making it far more volatile than peer cities like Seattle or Austin that allow more housing construction. So San Francisco's housing crisis is largely shaped by one single decision made on September 18, 1978. And that is why, more than 45 years later, it still stands out as one of the most expensive and exclusionary cities in the United States. A cautionary tale of what happens when a city prioritizes the views and property values of existing homeowners over the needs of future generations. Thanks for watching.